Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
side. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Jamuna Tira
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Girivardhan ki jai, Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, स्वामी तो भक्तबिंद की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तबिंद की जय. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome for the class. So I put the verse on the screen. You can start.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading this morning from Srimad Bhagavatam, First Canto, Chapter 5, text number 28. Hare Krishna. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes.
So I'll read the text, the Sanskrit, and the translation and text purport, and we can go on from there. So Srimad Bhagavatam, First Canto, Chapter 5, text number 28. Itiham sarat praviksya ritu hari veshwan vatume nusvam yaso malam sankirtya manam munibi mahatma bihi bhakti prava atma rajastamupaha itiham sarat praviks shika riti hari Vrishnavatume nusavam yaso malam Sankirtya manam munibi mahatma bi Bhakti pravatam rajastamupa Itim sarat praviksya kavritu harim Vrishnavatume anusavam yaso malam Sankritya manam munibi mahatma bi Bhakti pravitatma rajastamupaha. Word for word translation. Itiham dos. Sarat autumn. Praviks shikav rainy season. Ritu 2 seasons. Are of the Lord. Vishrimvata continuously hearing. Me, myself. Anunsavam constantly. Yasaha amalam unadulterated glories. Sankityamanam chanted by Munibi, the great sages. Maha Atmabi, great souls. Bhakti, devotional service. Pravita began to flow. Atma, living being. Raja, mode of passion. Tamaha, mode of ignorance. Upaha, vanishing. Translation, purport by His Divine Grace Labai Charanara Vindesi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Patita Pavan Jaga Guru Savior of the Ocean of Prabhu Ki Jai. Thus, during 2 seasons, the rainy season and autumn, I had the opportunity to hear these great souls, sages, constantly chant the unadulterated glories of the Lord Ari. As the flow of my devotional service began, the coverings of the modes of passion, excuse me, and ignorance vanished. Purpose by His English PRABHU. Transcendental loving service for the Supreme Lord is the natural inclination of every living being. The instinct is dormant in everyone. But due to the association of material nature, the modes of passion and ignorance cover this form from time immemorial. If, by the grace of the Lord and the great soul devotees of the Lord, a living being becomes fortunate enough to associate with the unadulterated devotees of the Lord and gets a chance to hear the unadulterated glories of the Lord, certainly, the flow of devotional service takes place like the flow of a river. As the river flows until she reaches the sea, similarly, pure devotional service flows by the association of pure devotees till it reaches the ultimate goal, namely, transcendental love of God. Such a flow of devotional service cannot stop. On the contrary, it increases more and more without limitation. The flow of devotional service is so potent that any onlooker also becomes liberated from the influence of the modes of passion and ignorance. These two qualities of nature are thus removed, and the living being is liberated, being situated in his original position. Om Agyanam Timirandasya Gyanam Gyanam Shala Akaya Shakyo Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Swam Pada Antikam. He Krishna Karuna Shindu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangira Devim Davaneshwari Rishabhanu Shute Devi Pranamami Naripriye Vancha Karpataru Vyascha Kripa Sundubhya Sivascha Patitanam Pavachnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Nama Mukam Karoti Bachalam Pangam Lagayate Girim Yat Kripat Avande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srinivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Etiham Sarat Pravik Sekav Ritu Hare Vijivanto Me Anusavan Yaso Malam Sankirtya Manam Munibi Mahatma Bihi Bhakti Pravitatma Rajastamo Paha. Thus, during 2 seasons, the raining and autumn, I had the opportunity to hear these great soul sages constantly chant the unadulterated glories of the Lord Ari. As the flow of my devotional service began, the coverings of the modes of passion and ignorance vanished. Hare Krishna. So I want to welcome all the devotees, Vaishnava devotees who are on this platform this morning, to these wonderful discussions from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is said to be the light for those who are in the darkness of ignorance. First, I offer my obeisances to all the Vaishnavas as one who is the servant of the servant of the servant. Having this wonderful opportunity to render service at the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas and the Gurus, I pray at the feet of all of you that in my endeavor to render this service, that I may speak, utter those things, those words that will be pleasing to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Acharyas, and satisfying and purifying to those who will hear the words that will come out of my mouth. So this morning we're discussing a continuous verse from the chapter 1, Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto. Yes,
Your
Prabhu.
voice is having echo. Maybe you have some mic beside you or somebody signing beside you. It's having echo.
Oh.
Any machine around you?
Except on my laptop, there is none other device.
Okay. All right, please, you can go on, but it's having echo. That's all. Go on.
Let me move the laptop a little bit away from it. Is it better now?
But just go on.
Okay. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 1, chapter 5, text number 28. And it's a continued discussions of Srila Narada Muni and his disciple Srila Vyasadeva. We have heard from several speakers the glories of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the narration about how Srila Vyasadeva, out of concern, passion to help the humanity on Earth planet, has put together and compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam for the welfare of all human beings. But after doing that successfully, he felt unhappy. And in his dilemma of unhappiness, he wonders what is the problem. And when he meditated on his spiritual master, Srila Narada Muni, Srila Narada Muni appeared, and we have had series of conversation between Srila Narada Muni and Vyasadeva. So in this particular text, Srila Prabhupada described this text as the perfection of human life. And why is this text described as the perfection of human life? It is described as the perfection of human life because in the text that we're reading, there is a very significant word used there in the last stanza of the text. Atma rajas tamupaha. Atma means the soul. Rajas means mode of passion. Tamas means ignorance. And upaha means to remove. So this is the goal of human life. In any endeavor, there is what is called, in Vedic terminology, sadhya, the goal, and sadhana, the process of attaining that goal. In the text we are reading this morning, the goal of human life, the means of attaining that goal, and the process is elaborately composed inside this one verse. So Srila Prabhupada described it as the perfection of human life. What is that perfection of human life? Atma rajas tamopaha. That is to overcome the influence of the modes of material natures, of gunas, of passion and ignorance. That is considered, according to the Vedic standard, the perfection of human life. In other words, unless one is able, in whatever achievement one attains in human life, unless one comes to the platform of being able to overcome, to remove completely the mode of passion and ignorance, his life is considered imperfect, no matter what achievement. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 19, Madhya Lila, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has nicely described the journey, the nature of the living entity, very nicely, when in his teachings to Slarupa Goswami, especially from the text number 146 downward. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he told that the living entities in the material world are of two types, the moving and the non-unmoving. Living entities are divided into two categories, the moving and the non-living beings. And those that can move, among them are the birds, aquatics, the animals, the living entities. And although the living entities are known as human beings, they are considered to be a small fragment of that portion of the moving living entities. And he described that even though one is in human form of life, there are gradations, there are different levels of humanity. And he further explained those kind of living entities. In text number 12, he said, although living entities known as human beings are very small in quantity, that division may be still further subdivided, for there are many uncultured human beings like Melechas, Pulindas, Boundas, Sabaras, and so many of them. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Srila Rupa Goswami that of all these kind of living entities, one who has come to the Vedic principles of life is considered to be civilized. In other words, unless one comes to the standard of Vedic life, irrespective of whatever the background of such a living entity is considered to be uncivilized. And among those who are civilized living entities, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained that one who comes to the stage of Varnashram Dharma, one who is able to attain the platform of Varnashram Dharma, following the four ashram and varnas, who was able to state himself on that platform, is one who is considered to be acting on the platform of human being. And among all of those followers of Vedic knowledge, majority, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained, are engaged in fruitful activities. And there are many millions and billions of such living entities who are using the Vedic literatures to perpetuate their sense gratification for increasing their duration of time in the prison house called material world. One may become able to come to the transcendental platform. And that person who is able to come to that transcendental platform is what is being described here as a person who has attained perfection of human life. To come to the perfection of state of human life, according to the Vedic standard, one has to follow the Varna and Ashram system. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, chapter 13, Lord in this very Srimad Bhagavatam, it is nicely explained that of all the followers of the Varnashram Dharma, one who is able to identify the goal. Just like we said in the beginning, in every process there is the goal, there is the process, and there is the means. So all of those who are following the Vedic system, the Varnashram Dharma system, who are considered to be human beings, One who is able to understand, as stated in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, text number 13, is the one who is considered to have come to that platform, who understand the purpose of the Vedic Varnashram Dam system. In that verse, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he described, in that Srimad Bhagavatam, 1 Canto chapter 2, text number 13, it is mentioned that Aritoshana, attaining the ultimate goal of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the ultimate goal. I'm trying to get that verse on my screen here. On my screen here.
It's on the screen.
It's on the screen.
Yeah, I'm using a smaller screen, so it's not. Okay. Atapumbi vidas restas banashama vibagasha. So I know stars damasyaha subsidy aritoshana. This aritoshana, proper in the translation, he explained what is this elaborately. That the ultimate goal, the ultimate purpose of engaging or following the Varnashram Dam from the Sudra to Brahmana to Vaishyas and all of the ashram is to come to the platform of Aritoshana, to understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be pleased. That is the ultimate goal. And in attaining this ultimate goal, it is mentioned in this verse that we're reading today that Atma Rajas Tamo Paha, one has to rise above the three modes of material nature. But how do one rise above the three modes of material nature? The perfect disciple Arjuna, he asked Lord Krishna in the chapter 14 of Bhagavad Gita the same question. And in text number 26, Lord Krishna answered that question. How do one rise above the three modes of material nature? Lord Krishna said in that verse, Mamchayo vyabhichari na bhakti yojena sevate saguna samatiyatan brahman bhuyaya kalpate. That to come to the Brahma Bhuyaya, the platform of transcendence, bhakti is required. But on the platform of bhakti, no one can engage bhakti with the mode of goodness and passion and ignorance. One has to rise above the modes of material nature. And how to rise above that modes of material nature, Lord Krishna explained here that one has to engage in bhakti. And all of us who are fortunate, as mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that in same Madhya Lila, that one who is fortunate, Brahmananda Brahmite Konya Bhagavan Jiva, Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bakabija, that in Madhya Lila, the same chapter 19, there's number, I think, 180 or 170. It is mentioned that clearly that one who is fortunate is he who has come in contact with the bona fide representatives of God. Just like Narada Muni is explaining here. In the two seasons of the rainy season and autumn, Narada Muni, he had the opportunity of association with Mahatmas. But how do one get that opportunity to come to that platform? It is explained in the previous verses of this chapter. And in chapter 7, verse 28 of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Yesham tu antagata papam, gena mam punya karmana, te duan duhad vini mukta bajanti mam, dridavrata. that by engaging in pious activities in previous lives and in present life, once sinful activities is eradicated, that is what is narrated in the life of Narad Muni here. That it takes endeavor from previous life and in present life. And by such endeavor in pious activities of serving, if one becomes fortunate, he renders service to great personality and develops determination. And when one becomes fortunate like that, he meets with a great soul. It is explained that there are 4 stages that one goes through naturally to come to be able to benefit what Narada Muni experienced here by associating. In the last couple of days, there has been so many discussions and questions and answers in why, as devotees, we come into devotional service and we are not experiencing, even after hearing so many. We have to understand that to become able to benefit from the hearing from the Mahabhagavats, as it is mentioned here, as the means, one has to rise above the modes of material nature. And since we as Vaishnavas, those who are followers of Vedic tradition, has this fortune to be able to have the opportunity to hear these transcendental sound vibrations, according to the acharyas, one has to go through 4 stages to be able to do what? To rise above these 3 modes of material nature. In our endeavor to become free from the modes of material nature by hearing, by engaging in devotional service. The first stage is when one is on the platform of effortless failure. When we come into devotional service, as it is mentioned in chapter 7 of Bhagavad Gita I quoted, one has to develop Dridhavrata, one needs determination. But to have that determination, for one to develop that level of determination, one goes through these 4 stages of development in devotional service. And the very base level is when one is considered to be on the platform of effortless failure. Above that is struggle and failure. When one rises above struggle and failure, if he's fortunate, he may go to the platform of or the level of struggle and success. That is wonderful. But even beyond that, one has to strive to go to the platform of effortless success. What are these 4 stages of development in devotional service? The stage of the base level, the effortless failure in devotional service can be described as this. When one comes to devotional service, when we all come to devotional service, we have an experience. After coming close to the devotees, then we understand. Like Prabhupada explained, that following the 4 regulative principles of liberation is considered to be a platform which rises one above the modes of passion and ignorance. So when we hear that one has to abstain from these 4 regulative principles, the first thing that comes to somebody who is not fortunate enough is that, how can I stop meat eating? Okay, if I don't feel like I can stop meat eating, how do I avoid intoxication? And someone at that time, if he's not very strong enough, he's not very determined, at that very moment when he hears, although he must have been pursuing, he must have been following the devotees, the moment he hears that question, that instructions, follow the 4 regulative principles, he just immediately resolve, I cannot do this. I cannot just do this. Okay, maybe I may be able to abstain from myself from 1 or 2, but these 2 other ones, I can't do it. It is not for me. And such a person, he falls back. Even after coming into bhakti, into the process of devotional service, this stage is called effortless failure. Although one has come by dint of good fortune, he has come into the process, into the platform of bhakti, but because this determination is not strong enough, it gets stuck or fall back from the platform of effortless failure. And there are so many examples of that in our devotional service. I remember in the early 90s, specifically in 1992, There's one wonderful devotee. Then in my early days, I used to see those who have been familiar with our process very well in West Africa. In those days, there are three class of persons that are highly revered in our movement, that we very much highly revered. If somebody is a Brahmana, is a Pujari, or he is fortunate, he's cooking in the dirty kitchens, they are special people in those days. Every other person looks at them because they are considered to be highly elevated. But funny and interesting enough, in those early days, there was one wonderful devotee, senior godbrother of mine. And his name is, I don't know whether anyone will remember that devotee. His name is Simasena Das. Simasena Das was working with Govinda Das on the altar in Mafuluku. And when you see this devotee, when he's walking on the altar, you marvel, you are be attracted. But what happens? One day, just one day, after the normal Mangalati process of engaging in the morning devotional activities, he was on the altar with Govinda Das, on the altar, and immediately he finished on the altar that morning. He went upstairs, changed his dhoti, put on a kami cloth, and he walked out of the temple, and he never came back till today. I'm talking about almost 30 years ago. And for so many years, I was battling with this question in my mind, that how can somebody, because this is an example of a devotee who is following regularly, he is chanting, you can see him, he's chanting every day. When the devotees are chanting, he's chanting, he's attending to the deities, he's doing so many activities. But all of a sudden, I was so baffled by his act that day that I had to find that devotee. After so many years, I saw him sometime, and I was asking him, Prabhu, why is it that you just all of a sudden leave? And he was telling me, Prabhu, just leave it. But he never come back. This is an example of an effortless failure. But when one is fortunate, by the dint of good fortune, if he rises above effortless failure, he comes to the platform, to the level of struggle and failure. It's better than that person who just walk away, who cannot follow. At the platform of struggle and failure, the devotee may be engaging in activities of devotional service. He hears Srimad Bhagavatam, he takes prasadam, he does all of the activities of devotional service. But all of a sudden, sometimes, Maya comes, just like devotee will give an example. And one day, you just feel, I'm chanting, I'm hearing every day. I attend all classes. I follow the 4 regulative principles. But still, I found myself agitated. Each and every other time, I found myself breaking the principles. And if such a person does not have the Drida Vrata, the strong determination, still at that platform, he may fall down. And we see that in many life of devotees. But from that platform, if one is more fortunate, it comes a little bit above that. It comes to the platform of struggle and success. This struggle and success platform is what is considered Brahmanica platform of life. When one has been able to rise above the the gunas, one develops the qualities of goodness. One has rise above the modes of passion and ignorance. One attains the platform that is described as struggle and success. On that platform, one is having an opportunity. Such a person is a candidate for success in devotional life. In the chapter 18 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, text number 42, Lord Krishna, he explained to Arjuna the qualities of those who are Brahmins. They are very austere, they follow all regulative, they are truthful, they know the scriptures, they are saintly, they are satisfied, they are never disturbed. This is a very wonderful stage of life. It is called struggle and success. When one is able to develop the quality, that level of quality in devotional speaking.
You can see it in the screen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prabhu. When one is able to come to that platform of that level, He has wisdom, is religious. That such a person is considered to be very highly elevated. But such a person is still under the mode of good material nature. Although such a platform is very wonderful, is very highly elevated, is peaceful, is self-controlled, is austere, he has quality of purity, is tolerant, is honest, is very knowledgeable. He can quote all of the scriptures. He knows this. He has knowledge. He has wisdom. But it is said that even at that level, considered to being able to come to the transcendental platform, what is described in the text that we are reading today, that the living entity is supposed to attain, Atma Rajastamo Baha, the level where one rise above the modes of material nature. One has to still rise above that mode of goodness, although mode of goodness is good, and one should strive to it. Interestingly, before coming to devotional service, I never met devotees. I read a Kami book, and I read the qualities of a Brahman, and I was deciding to go to India. Somehow or the other, it's a long story, but I came into devotional service. And when I came newly to Bhakti, my ultimate goal was what? Because I put down those qualities of the Brahminical qualities, and I was aspiring for them. I was struggling to attain that. But it is a wonderful goal. It is a wonderful desire. But even if one pursues that, the tendency of still falling to the second platform of struggle and failure is very high. For one to be able to rise from the platform of goodness to transcendental platform, one has to aspire to rise above the mode of goodness, to come to the platform of Vaishnava, to come to the platform of Aritoshana, pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even when one develops all these qualities, sometimes devotees ask, why is it that we see this devotee? He has so much of wonderful qualities. He's chanting very nicely. He's doing this nicely. But all of a sudden he leaves. It is because that person may be on the platform of goodness. It is said that if one develops the qualities of a Brahmin and he lives on that platform, he has the opportunity, he can go to the highest planet in the material world, to the abode of the Brahma, which is very wonderful. But as it is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Abrahmana Bhuvana Aloka Puna Avati no Juna, from the highest planetary system to the lowest, even when one attains that level, he can still fall down. But what is established as the platform of good, of struggle and success, is one rises above the struggle and failure and establishes himself on the platform of struggle and success. What is this platform of struggle and success? That platform of struggle and success is when one is able, by the grace of the Lord, to act by practicing what Lord Krishna gives as instructions, by constantly engaging in process of devotional service, as mentioned in chapter 14, text number 26, by practicing, by regularly hearing. Fortunately, from great soul, just like Narada Muni heard here, Sankitya Manam Munibi Mahatma Di. Narada Muni, he was fortunate, he had. So, to come to that platform of struggle and success, if one is able to not depend on his Brahmanical qualities, on his ability to develop mode of goodness, but realize that bhakti, devotional service, requires costless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One cannot successfully rise above the modes of material nature. And to come to that to come to that platform of bhakti, devotional service, Lord Krishna, he told Arjuna to come to that platform of devotional service, which Narada Muni attained, which is describing to Srila Vyasadeva here, that as the flow of my devotional service began, the coverings of the modes of passion and ignorance vanished. This is very significant, that when one genuinely hears naturally the modes of material nature, automatically, gradually start removing. As it is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1 Canto chapter 2, text number 18, we recite that every time. Nasta praisu, abadresu, nitiem Bhagavatam sevaya. Bhagavati utamans loke, bhakti bhavati. Nice again. That when one here in that mood, one comes to the platform of bhakti. And when one comes to the platform of bhakti, what establishes naturally is that one attains the platform of peacefulness. And when one is peaceful, one can, then only one can engage in process of devotion and service. Then at that platform, what Narada Muni experienced here, Sankitya Mahanam Munibi, Mahatma Bi will establish. That is elaborately explained in the chapter 18 of Bhagavad Gita, text number 54. When Lord Krishna is describing to Arjuna, Arjuna asks a question: how do I know that I've come to that stage of transcendence when I've rise above the molds of material nature? Lord Krishna told Arjuna, Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atma Na Sushati Na Kanchati Ma Saveshu Bhukti Bhaktim Labate Param. That when one rises above anchoring, lamentation, one sees Sabasa Veshu Bhukteshu, one sees all living entities as equal. Mabatim Labate Param. One can come to Parabhakti, platform of supreme bhakti, devotional service. And when one comes to that platform, devotional service brings one to the platform of effortless success, the fourth stage. At the stage of effortless success, one never remembers the four regulative principles. One doesn't remember that I have to wake up in the morning, because his lifestyle, his activities, his words, everything of his activities, like it is described in the Stita Pragriya chapters of the chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita, is situated on that platform. His activities are in consonant with the platform of the Mahabhagavats. That is somebody who has really, by dint of good fortune, heard from the Mahatmas. But then who is Mahatma? Who is a great soul? Who is that person that we have to hear from that will produce this kind of effect? In chapter 9, but text number 13 of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, he explained who is a Mahatma? Who is a Mahatma? Who is a great soul? Mahatma now stu mampata. Devim prakitin asrita. Bajanti ananya manaso. Kiatuam butadim avyayam. O son of Partha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, they are under my protection of divine nature. What is their characteristics? They are fully engaged in devotional service. Why are they engaging in devotional service? Because they know me as the supreme personality of Godhead, original, inexhaustible. This is a great soul. Srila Prabhupada always, when he's describing this text, give an example of milk being a very wonderful substance that increases duration of life, that is beneficial for the living entity. But as wonderful as the milk is, if it is tasted or contaminated by a drop of the poison from the mouth of a snake, or touched by the sting of a snake, then it becomes poisonous. So one has to hear from Mahabhagavats. But who is a Mahabhagavat? It is described here. A Mahabhagavat is not that necessarily somebody who can recite, who can quote the sloka very nicely. It's not that person because he's in the highest level of Vanashram. It's not that person because he can give a wonderful class. That person, from the heart, he engages in devotion and service, as is mentioned here. In another verse, in the same chapter 9, it mentioned that a devotee of the Lord is always glorifying, is always chanting, just like the activities of the Mahatmas that are described here, that Narada Muni had from. They are always engaging in glorification, is chanting. That is their lifestyle. They have no other duties. They are satisfied. They're never worried by anything. Whatever it is provided to them, they are satisfied by it. Because why? They know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita, text number 24, Lord Krishna, he mentioned to Arjuna that for one to be able to know the Lord, as this man Bhagavad, 4 knowledge is required. Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, text number 24. In that verse, Lord Krishna, he mentions very elaborate in that verse. Can you put that verse on the screen for us? Bhagavad Gita chapter 13. Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, text number 24. Lord Krishna, I told Arjuna, Ya evam veti purusham prakritim chagunaisaha sarvatavat manopihi nasa buyo bujayate. That what? One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interactions of the modes of material nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. And now this is interesting. In the first very line of that purport, the Prabhupada explains something very interesting. Prabhupada said, clear understanding of material nature, the super soul, the individual and soul, the individual soul and their interaction makes one eligible to become liberated and turn to the spiritual atmosphere without being forced to return to the material world or material nature. This particular text, it captures 4 of the 5 subjects that is taught in Bhagavad Gita. The other 5th subject is Kala, time. So, Lord Krishna, he told Arjuna that if one knows this knowledge, but the dilemma is that in the process of trying to know this knowledge, it's a very complex endeavor. So therefore, Lord Krishna, he mentioned something in the last stanza of that text. He said, which is very important to us as sadhakas. He says, he will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. Our worry is always that in our present situation, what is the hope of a bhakta who is struggling, although it may have not attained all of those qualifications? Lord Krishna promises here, at whatever stage he is, because of his contribution, because of his endeavor on the part of bhakti, he is sure to attain, and he never comes back to this material world. This is the benefit of being a bhakta, coming to the platform of devotion and service. So for those of us who are fortunate, who have come to this platform, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, what is simply required is only one requirement: to rise from the bottomless level of our endeavor in spiritual life, which is effortless failure, to the platform of struggle and failure, struggle and success, that takes us to this effortless success. One quality is strongly required, and that quality is what is mentioned here in this verse, that will take the devotee from whatever platform he finds himself. And that is what? To sincerely hear based on the instructions of the Lord and the pure devotee. That is what Narad Muni did here in this verse that we're reading this morning. Narad Muni, he has explained in the previous verses, he was sincere. He simply had, and Srila Prabhupada mentioned, just once, he took the prasadam of those great souls, and within the 4 months of autumn and the 2 seasons of autumn and the rainy season, he had, and he attained perfection. For one who has taken to this process of bhakti, devotional service, his success is guaranteed from the beginning. That is what is mentioned here. As my devotional service began, as my devotional service began, the covering of the modes of passion and ignorance is immediately removed. And Srila Prabhupada explained what is this removal of the modes of passion and ignorance, following the 4 regulative principles. One who strictly follows the regulative principles of devotional service as given by Srila Prabhupada automatically rises above. And once he rises above, he establishes himself on the platform of mode of goodness. That platform of mode of goodness gives him the opportunity to be able to come to this transcendental level of parabhakti, supreme bhakti, devotional service. And Srila Prabhupada, in a lecture given in Paris, as narrated in the Lamenta of Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada said, although we have enumerated the qualities of a Brahmana, one who is on the mode of platform of goodness, Prabhupada, he described in his lila what is that primary, most important qualification to derive in coming to the mode of goodness. When a devotee, when new Bhakta was asking questions in a challenging mood, that lecture was given in Paris, and he kept on asking Srila Prabhupada a very challenging question. And after so many questions, Srila Prabhupada asked him a question. And that question was, who is Lord Krishna? And the devotees, that new Bhakta explained, he answered, Srila Prabhupada, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that day, very day, it is mentioned in that Lila that Srila Prabhupada gave him initiation that day, that is qualified. There are so many stories that explains such scenarios. So, conclusively, our endeavor in devotional service to be able to get the success as is described by Narad Muni here. Sankityamanam Muni bi Mahatma Nabi. To hear from the great, wonderful souls and develop Atma Rajasta Mopaha, one has to develop the quality of sincerity. And when one develops that quality of sincerity, one is able to hear in purified consciousness. And the platform of Bhakti is guaranteed at that stage. And when one attains that guaranteed stage of Bhakti, his journey going back to Godhead is guaranteed. So finally, the last sentence of Srila Prabhupada in the purport of the text we are reading, Prabhupada said, then it is certain that he will never come again into this material existence. He will be transferred into the spiritual world for his eternal life of knowledge. So
thank you, Prabhu.
So that we can entertain some corrections, comments, or questions.
Thank you, Prabhu, for your nice class. I have a question on the verse, on the purport of today's class.
Okay.
The last paragraph, Prabhupada mentioned that the flow of devotional service is so potent that any onlooker, the word here, any onlooker also becomes liberated from the influence of the mode of passion and ignorance. So we go on Harinam, the word has been saying devotees on Harinam, they are called onlookers.
Yes.
Yet they are not yet liberated from the influence of the mode of passion and ignorance, as stated in the purport. What can be the result? Is it because their tamoguna is so heavy that seeing devotees on Harinam, they are unable to come out of the mode of passion and ignorance and become devotees?
Thank you very much. That's a nice question. One who hears just once the holy name of Lord Krishna, according to the very scripture, statement of the Acharyas, Srimad Bhagavatam, is already liberated. But Srila Prabhupada explained it in this way. When the fan is rolling, we enter into our room and we're not interested in taking the breeze coming from the fan. We stop the fan. When we stop that fan, Our intention is to stop the fan, but the fan does not stop immediately. What happens is that the fan continuously rolls, but its speed starts reducing, and until eventually the fan eventually stops. That is what happens to one who hears, whether we are in Arinam or in my. And I'll narrate one short story to you that happens in Mayapur in the beginning days of Slapawa Pastor in Mayapur. There's this story of one devotee. I've forgotten the name of that devotee eventually. But this, it was a Gunda. He is actually one of the deacons that is, because you know when Mayapur was starting, it was like a kind of a forest area. So this particular young person will come to the temple, and every day, what he does is to the temple is that he comes, he takes some man prasadam in the morning. And immediately, he never comes for anything. He knows the time they serve prasadam, he will come. He will just take some prasadam. And once he takes prasadam, he will go. So after some time, the devotee becomes very disturbed. He said, this person is always coming here to this place. And he will take prasadam, he will just go. He's not even rendering any service. So it's not even opportune to be able to advance in devotional life. So we'll stop him. So they were deliberating on this, and they mentioned to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, this person, he always come here. Only when we're serving prasad, and he will take some prasad, and he will not just leave. And Srila Prabhupada explained that they should leave him. They were confused. But he's supposed to render some service so that he can get benefited. Prabhupada said they should leave him. And they kept on watching this individual soul. He kept on coming. He will take prasadam. And without being requested, after some time, it is mentioned that this person, he start coming earlier before prasadam time. He will come and sit in the temple during the class. And you know our programs, immediately after class, there's prasadam. So we listen to the class. And after listening to the class, we take prasadam, but he will not come at the Kama Yoga period when he's going to render any service. Devotees were watching him. And by hearing and taking prasadam, after some time, he developed the taste. He started coming earlier than the class time. And he will start sweeping. Nobody engaged him. Nobody asked him to sweep. But he will come. He will start sweeping. He will pick some dirty things on the floor. And after devotees watching him like this for several months, when he started engaging like this, he started asking questions from the devotees. So they took him to Srila Prabhupada. They said, Prabhupada, that complaint we had the other day, that person we are talking in question, this is the person. And amazingly to us, this is what has happened. And they narrated to Srila Prabhupada the observation over the period of time, how he graduated himself without anybody requesting him. From coming to eat only for him, he wasn't eating, he doesn't know anything about prasadam. He was not conscious of what prasadam was. He has no knowledge of what it is. He just come and eat food to him. He wants to satisfy his belly. To the graduate level, rising to the platform of to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam class, then rendering service. So this is how devotional service is like. So it does not necessarily mean that because they hear, they went away, they did not benefit. Their journey back home, back to God, is already guaranteed when they hear those names.
Okay.
I hope I answered.
We have second question from Sahadev Prabhu.
Okay.
Sahadev, please.
Hare Krishna, Salika Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Sahadev Prabhuji.
Thank you so much for the amazing class. I really appreciate your tilak. I wish I can apply such a beautiful tilak.
Hello.
Prabhu,
I can hear
my
you, Prabhu.
question
Could you repeat the
is,
question because it was echoing here?
Sahadev, go on.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. My question is in regards to the purpose. Sri Prabhupada used the word unadulterated like 3 times. In other words, we have to associate.
Prabhu, I didn't hear. Kaptusha Prabhu, if you had this question, please can you read?
Yeah, I will tell you after. Prabhu, go on.
Okay. Okay. That we have to hear from very elevated souls. And in ISKCON, as we have today, we understand our elevated souls, our sannyasis, our gurus. We may have some elevated souls that are not sannyasis or gurus, but mostly we know these elevated souls as sannyasis and gurus. And by associating and hearing from these personalities is where the potency flows. And some of them are reluctant to go into places like West Africa. So how do devotees in that region benefit from these people, these very people by whose association is that devotees can have the mercy of the Supreme Lord, are reluctant to go because some of them are saying it's a disease-prone region. Some say it's very poor, wretched. Yet we have few that go. So what do you say about that? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, please, I didn't get the beginning of the question.
Yeah, the beginning was that Prabhupada used the word in the purports, unadulterated, 3 times.
Yes.
And now we are told to hear from elevated souls. And many elevated souls in ISKCON doesn't come to West Africa, whom we should hear from. So can you comment on that?
Okay. Krishna reciprocates based on the level of our sincerity. It is not dependent on geographical location or our limitations. And Lord Krishna clearly explained that in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 10, verse number 10, the Chatusloki verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Tesham saktakta yukta nam bhajatam priti purvrakam dadami buddhi yogamtam jinamam upayantite. That to those who are constantly desiring to loving me with devotion, Krishna says, I will give them the understanding by which they will come to me. And it didn't stop there. In the next verse, 10 and 11 is very significant verse. It said in the 10, thank you for in the next verse, he said, Tesham evanu kampatam aham agyanam jantama. Nasayami atma bhavasto gyana dipena baswata. He didn't just say, I will do it. Krishna is telling how he will do it. He said to show them special mercy, I dwelling in their heart will destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge, bone of ignorance in their heart. So if a devotee sincerely, that is why I ended the class by using the word sincerity. If a devotee is sincerely, genuinely wanting to advance, to know Krishna, to rise above the most of material nature, if he is genuinely sincere, Krishna will make 20. There's been so much of lamentation, complaint, why devotees in West Africa were not able to hear from great personalities. But because of the strong desires of the devotees to hear from great souls, Lord Krishna allowed COVID-19 to come into place. Many people think COVID-19 was a demoniac exploit. But Krishna is so perfect that he will use even the wrong desire of a negative personality to give us a positive result. So Krishna is using COVID-19 to give us the opportunity to hear. And you can imagine the array of great personality, Mahatmas, that have been speaking on this platform. But you see how unfortunate a living entity can be. In West Africa, I know as at about 15, 20 years ago, my Guru Maharaj disciples alone, let me give it a summary. Let's say 1,000 devotees were initiated. We're not talking of disciples of other gurus. And in West African Yatra, this great, wonderful platform has been created. And Prabhuji, how many devotees are connecting, are linking into this? That is to show them the level of sincerity they have for advancing in spiritual life. It is not far-fetched. I use an analogy in the course of the lecture of the progression we have in on the process of attaining the ultimate goal of devotion and service. Effortless failure, effortless struggle and failure, struggle success and struggle and effortless success. I'll give us another simple short story of Hanuman. When Lord Ramachandra engaged Hanuman and the monkeys to look for Sita, they were struggling. They made so much endeavors. And at a point in time, they resolved, we cannot do this. Effortless failure. The result, we are finished. We are not doing this again. There is no hope for us. And because we cannot go back to Ramachandra empty-handed, we'll fast to death. We're not doing anything again. But because Hanumanji was in the midst of those who are Vaishnava, Machita, Magata, Pranam, Bundiya, Staff, Parasparam, because Hanuman was in the association of Bhaktas, and because of the strong desire that their desire was not to fast to death, their desire was not to resolve to stop him, but because they want to please the Lord sent an emissary, and Hanuman was recited to the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the glories of Hanuman started at that point, just like it started in this text we are reading today. That when one hears, it's very important. Lord Krishna used the word Shrinu in so many verses in the Bhagavad Gita. When he's talking to Arjuna, he will take Tak Shrinu. Hear. The problem is that we never hear. So, when we are said that we should hear from great souls, there is no limitation of Mahatmas. If one is not able to assess a Mahatma, it means it's not sincere enough. Hare Krishna. I hope I said something to answer your question.
Yeah, thank you for the nice answer. One next question from Sukadev Goswami.
Yes, Sukadev Goswami Prabhu ki jai.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Please accept my humble greetings.
I'm already shaking on my seat because your questions can be very thought-provoking.
Please accept my humble greetings, Prabhu. Thank you very much for the wonderful class, Prabhu. Just I have quite two questions I have, and my number one question is in regards to precisely again and again you keep referring to when we hear, when we hear. But now I have a question in this regard, because how do we balance what we hear psychologically? How do we balance it with spirituality? Because in this context, you say when we hear, now we hear based on what is there in our prescribed karma. And we can't hear what is also not there in our prescribed karma. And how we also understand what we hear is also based on the prescribed karma, which is also part of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. You say, like you made reference that when one chants the holy name of the Lord, immediately he becomes liberated. This is one of the things you said. But so how is it that we have been chanting the holy name of the Lord for so many years now? We've been practicing, we've been reciting the holy name, we've been individually, we've been sincerely practicing and chanting, but still we are not able to, we still don't know if we are liberated or not. Like based on, even for us to be able to chant is also based on prescribed karma. So please, how do we balance this together? This is my first question, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Nice questions. It is simple. When we look at what our scriptures has given us, whatever question that can arise in our mind has already been asked. And whatever answer that is required for our freedom from the three modes of material nature has already been given. Now, the gap in between where we are and where we are going is our level of attentiveness. Srila Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Devotion mentions some three qualities that are required for one to become successful on this endeavor. The number one is that in the Nectar of Devotion, he mentions that
for one to become a successful in part of devotional service. And this
What happened? What is it?
applies to any field of life. One has to develop a and beyond enthusiasm. If one is fortunate, is able to develop enthusiasm, he still have to go beyond that to develop determination. And that determination is developed by what? Lord Krishna, I quoted that verse in the course of the lecture, 728, by engaging sincerely in the pious activities. One will develop Dridha Vrata. One needs determination. But what happened is that even when one is determined, Srila Rupa Goswami said, these two are not enough. One has to still develop patience. Now, let me explain this patience in an analogy, in a simple analogy. Every one of us, we sleep in the night, it is night. But in the morning, when the sun rises, we can only express the rising of the sun. How the sun rises from darkness to lightning, nobody can explain it. We just see at a point in time, the sun has risen. But the rising of the sun is not automatic. It is progressive. It is going stage by stage. Krishna, we are closing eyes, we are opening, and we see the weather is, all of a sudden, we see that the sun has risen. So in the process of devotional service, the same requirement is there. The rising of the sun of Bhakti in our heart manifest if we put into consideration these three qualifications that is required, mentioned by Srila Rupa Goswami. We have to focus on these three qualifications that is required and continue hearing. We should never at any time think that we are not progressing. That is the consciousness of a struggle and failure bhakta. We will engage in process of devotional service. And let me give you a simple analogy to explain this. We all know elephants. Elephant is trained in the forest. When elephants are small, they are taken to the forest. And when they are in the forest, to train an elephant is a very strong animal. But for the elephant to do the hard work of an elephant, they are trained in such a way by elephant trainers. Their legs are tied with a very strong rope and tied to a tree. We all know that elephant, just by using his trunk, he will pull a whole tree as big as it is, he will throw it away. But to get that, develop that strength, even though it's inherent in him, the elephant trainer, when he was small, they would tie his leg to a very strong pillar tree. And the elephant will start struggling as he's small. He will see the other elephant playing around, and he wants to go, but he cannot go. He will continue struggling. He will continue struggling. And instead of trying to free himself, all of his leg will bruise. He will express so much pain. And after some time, after so much of endeavor, he pulls off with force and he removes that tree and is able to move. And when he tie the leg again, tie it to a bigger tree. And like that, they will continue doing until he develops the ability to pull off the strongest tree in the forest. But that same elephant, after being trained like that, when he's taken to the city now, because now he has been trained to do heinous job, when he's taken into the street, what do they do when they take an elephant to the city? They naturally, unless when they are being successfully trained in that other aspect, they are not left free. So when an elephant is trained successfully in the forest and is taken to the city, they are tied to a pole or pillar. And if elephant is not sufficiently intelligent enough, at that moment, he will stop. You say, because why? He starts thinking, if I pull this thing, I will suffer the pain I suffer. Because he has been pulling, he has forgotten, now he's strong. But the moment he's tied, because once an elephant becomes strong, the elephant trainer no longer tied him. But when they take him to the street, to the city, he's tied again. And when he's tied, what happens? He starts remembering what happened in the past. Oh, if I try to pull now, my leg will bruise. I will feel pain. So he doesn't want to pull. He remain there, even though he has the ability to pull it off. So we should never become like that elephant. In devotional service, even the little endeavor, the Acharya said, gives one the opportunity to go back home, back to Godhead. But it takes some time. And that patience is required.
Thank you, Prabhu, for your answer.
But
any other question? No hand is up. Scotty, you still have second question?
Yeah, I have one more question.
All right, go on.
Yeah. My other question is, just like in the process of everything that has been narrated and has been explained, Narada Muni eating from the food of the Mahajans and everything like that. Now, how do we differentiate between free will and still karma? How do we differentiate free will from karma? This is my question, Prabhu.
how do we differentiate free will from karma? The very living entity has been transmigrating from many lives. As we have heard, the message is pure. But when it comes into the material world, his journey, Srila expertly explained how we become complicated in the material world. He uses the mode of material nature, the three modes of material nature. And Prabhupada will say, when you multiply 3 by 3, it doesn't remain 3, it becomes 9. And when you multiply 9 by 9, it becomes 81. That is what happens to us in the material world. When we come into the material world, we don't necessarily have all of the conditioning in full. But like it is explained in that verse I quoted earlier on, chapter 13, text number 24. When one comes into the most of material, under the influence of the most of material nature, just like natural colors, from yellow, red, and blue, when you start mixing, hundreds of colors can be derived. In the same way, once we enter into the most of material nature, the complexity is very unexplainable. But because of our spiritual nature that we possess as part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Satchit Ananda, that is the description given by Lord Brahma. Ishwara Paraman Krishna Satchit Ananda Vrigraha, Anadya Di Govindam Sarvakaranam Karanam. That we have the quality of Krishna. That quality of Krishna is what gives us the choice, what you call free will, to decide. But how do we decide? It is dependent on how the intelligence is used. But what is the difference graphically between karma and free will or choice? Karma is the reaction of whatever we have done in the previous life. But His Grace, Gopal Prabhu used to explain this very nicely. We were all born in a particular environment. We didn't decide that. Some of us were born in West Africa. Some was born in the US. So another person is born in India. We didn't decide that. It is not under our control. But when we have found ourselves in that particular geographical location of birth, what we do is not under the influence of karma. It is under our free will. What is the scholarly people describe as choice. So what you decide to do is your choice, or what you call free will. But what happens to you is what is described as karma. Whatever the reaction of what has been done in the previous life, carried over to this life, is what you cannot control. That is what is karma. And what you decide to do with the karma, let us look at a very practical example. Supposing you are going on the street, somebody comes on from nowhere and slaps you. That is your karma. But whether you slap him back, you rub it and walk away, or you just say, thank you, Prabhu, is your free will. That is your choice. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu, for your nice class. In the absence of no other question, no hand is up. We ask the devotees to unmute themselves. Let's chant Hare Krishna to Prabhu for coming.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai
Hare
His grace.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare
His
Krishna. Thank you
His
very
grace,
much.
Salika Prabhu.
Hare Hare.
Jai Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.